I'm coming at you live after a very surprisingly spacious day. Usually, my Thursdays are pretty nonstop from about noon till 8, including doing these live streams, which, yay, week 11 through Thanksgiving, through Christmas, through what's the next, through New Year's. I have been able to be consistent in live streaming and turning these insights into a newsletter for those who prefer to read. I know sometimes I can prefer to read depending on the speaker and my mood. So I love to make sure that content is accessible to all different types of learning styles. And today, in this spaciousness, there have been a couple conversations that made me realize I need to pause the series that I started last week. So, cliffhanger, we will come back to that with a part two. There's plenty to implement. If you missed it, we were talking about how to motivate teams to want to contribute. And this is sort of around the same idea, of course, with leadership and communication. There are a lot of problems that can be solved through the tips that I share. And today is no different. So it doesn't matter if you are a senior leader who wants to get the best out of their team. If you're a young entry professional that's like, man, I'm so good at my job, but I just don't feel like I'm getting taken very seriously. I want to move up the ladder. I want to have a higher salary. I want to be seen with more leadership presence. Or if you are a brand owner, if you want results, you need to have your audiences buy in. And what this means is that you need to capture their attention in a way that they're not only listening, but they're leaning in. You guys have heard me talk about this before, right? How to get them to lean in. It's the same thing. If you just start talking to them with assumptions and facts and not a lot of unity in what your message stands for, you're probably going to have a hard time moving the needle. And you guys know my story by now. I have had 3 planned careers be taken away from me due to market instability, and this is why I am so passionate about helping people understand how their presence and their communication skills and their people skills are really the only tool that we can have for sure. We think that all of these industries will be here, but we really don't know. So, how do we equip leaders? How do we build teams? How do we prepare for this uncertainty? How do we grow? How do we get people to care? How do we motivate others to want to contribute? It all comes down to buy in. And in this live stream today, we're going to cover 3 of the top ways that you can implement today to get better resistance from people who typically put up barriers or have resistance. Last year, you guys heard me talk a lot about brand growth and how we have the most guarded generation of buyers today. We do not trust people who are who they say they are on the internet. We don't trust that things aren't a scam. We're coming into most conversations guarded. Now, unfortunately, this is extending to us as a nation. And oh my goodness, just not going to rabbit hole on anything negative at all right now. Instead, staying laser focused on if you have a message to share, if you want to make impact, if you want to do good in the world, learning how to get people's buy-in is going to help you no matter what the world throws at you. And the first tip that you can implement immediately is understanding that emotion is greater than information. What do I mean? I mean that often people start a conversation with facts or statistics that they think should move the needle, that they think that people care about. And they make this assumption that people have the same level of care for whatever topic we're talking about. A common example of this is if you have HR trainers or corporate consultants or anybody who is trying to change a culture of a workplace. They come in and they're like, yeah, this matters. Yeah, we're going to create psychological safety in the workplace. Yeah, we're going to talk about wellness and self care. And the people who need this message the most are the ones, whether they're sitting actually in the front row with their hands crossed or their brain is doing that for them, they have barriers because if you are trying to make change, well, people are resistant to change. And if you go in just with information and stats and jump straight into your delivery of whatever training that you have or advice that you have to give, or if you are a young professional in the workplace, just jumping in without a lot of context, well, we're not giving time for people to care. And so, the first immediate tip that everybody can practice right here, right now, today is your presence. Presence is the first thing that people notice about you. And while it can take a long time to project a confident aura or maybe train your posture muscles to have a very tall spine, that is one of the best tricks for posture. Having a very aligned and tall spine, it is fantastic for you. It is fantastic for your communication and your energy. And it also, there's a TED Talk by Amy Cuddy. It is one of the most watched in the world, and she talks about how power poses actually alter your neurochemistry. And so this pose, this posture of your presence can definitely help. But an even easier tip for you guys today is something that's helped me when I have felt awkward in a million networking rooms. You've had a great conversation. Maybe I'm not even shy anymore, but it's still that awkward lull of, okay, everybody's paired off. Who do I talk to now? I can't tell you how many great conversations have been started by this alone. Walking around with a smile that my service industry experience taught me. Do not have RBF. You guys all know what it stands for. Smile. And you walk by somebody else that's smiling, and you can use that as a conversation starter. I have said, "Hey, smiling face." There's so many people that have started amazing conversations, and something about being present and leading with a smile makes you more attractive, not in a romantic way, in an energetic positivity. I want more of that joy and that good feeling energy that this person has. So, your first tip is to understand you need to make people feel something. You do that first with your presence, and you do that second with your words. I have a story framework, STORY, that is an easy acronym to remember the four pre delivery steps that should happen before the fifth step, which is the fifth in the framework, the why. That's the call to action. That's when we tell them what their next steps are. That is when you really deliver the meat of your training in that fifth step. So there's four steps prior to that. And if you, I will make sure that I link a, I think I talked about it in a recent newsletter, spelled it out what every good story should have. And this is really, really important because we talk about how to set the stage and use sensory details to make their subconscious prick up and go, wait a minute, are we in the middle of something? I'm interested. Huh? What? Then we move into talking about tension and trial. This is where you show them that you are human, you're vulnerable, you're transparent, you are a leader who has been through stuff. You're not just chat GPTing whatever advice you're getting, you have lived it. There's no better way to show that you have lived it and to get somebody's buy in than talking about your failures and mistakes. It's so simple, but we don't like to do it because it's hard. If you saw my post yesterday, you know that while I've asked for connections or support or guidance, asking for help directly was really uncomfortable. But I can't tell you how many people commented, oh my gosh, this post was so raw. You helped me in just reading this. Thank you. I had the most heartfelt posts and comments reacting to my vulnerability. And this is true every time. If you want to open somebody up to the idea that they need to change whatever they've done, lead with vulnerability because your vulnerability opens them up. Now, I'm not going to go into the rest of the framework. Make sure that you check out the comments because I will have a typed out version of that. So if you're interested, you can go ahead and see that story framework and see how to apply it for yourself. Now, that's one big tip right there. Emotion is greater than information. It comes down to your presence and it comes down to how you deliver your words. The second is I see a lot of people, again, whether you are any kind of communicator or brand owner, they tend to speak through their values, not necessarily their audience's values. And my favorite, easiest to understand example of this is when I was working with a transportation and logistics client, Saya LTL Freight. They brought me in to help with a marketing campaign. You guys may have seen me post about this before. I love this story because it is so illustrative of this point. They said, "We're not getting the conversions, we're not getting the results that we want. Can you help us?" And the first line was, do you guys know it? Have you been following me for a while? Do you know it yet? We make shipping easy. Everybody I've ever told this story to is like, huh, there's nothing really wrong with that. It sounds like, a marketing message. And it does. Sounds like a generic marketing message. Why should somebody care? In the consumer's mind, they go, yeah, you and everybody else. What's in it for me? And if you've ever taken any sales courses or know anything about sales, what's in it for me is what anybody is thinking about. So, if you can apply this to whatever type of communication that you're in, whether you're trying to motivate people, young people these days, to action, or whether you're like, man, just take me seriously, or you're a brand owner fighting through the noise, this will help you. And this is actually one of my favorite things to do. So, if you're watching this, if you're catching the replay, type your brand value proposition into the chat right now, into the comments, and I will help you translate that into your audience's value. So, it doesn't have to be one grand value prop that is like the mission and vision statement. It just has to be some kind of value that you give to your customers. Drop it in the chat, let me hear it, and we will rework it in real time because this matters so much. And this is what's going to move the needle, no matter what type of communication that you're in. Now, the last thing that you need to do to break down barriers, to turn resistance into buy in, to create champions, and to win support is giving them something to stand for, giving them something to rally behind. If you don't have a defined brand personality, a defined brand identity with values and a unified, especially digital presence, this is so important for our bigger organizations listening in, for our small and medium businesses that are listening in. If you have a store location and a digital website and the two do not match, you are missing such a huge opportunity for people to buy into your brand. Whether you are a leader, a young professional, a brand owner, you guys have heard me say it a million times. In today's world, you have a brand, whether you know it or not. And you need to lean into a strong brand identity so people know who you are and what you stand for. And guess what? When your values match with their values, it's like this magic moment. And you create what I like to call walking billboards. You create employees and customers alike that will champion your brand. Just like, yes, I said their names. If this is a longer workshop and not a live stream, I have their logo and I have examples of them and I have supporting stories. I haven't worked with them in years. They have no idea that I'm out there representing their brand in a positive way, which I don't know if I did today, talking about how their headline wasn't so great, but they knew what they needed to do to move the needle. I'm tongue tied today, you guys. It must be all of that gym time and sauna time that I had in my spacious calendar today, which was such a nice surprise. So, getting back to it, you need a strong brand identity. And I have different trainings on this. If you're curious about how to start, I recommend that you get clear on the 3 to 5 adjectives that represent your brand as if you were a character in a book or a movie. And go ahead and throw that into the chat as well. Comment something that you do for your brand, some type of value. I will help you translate that. And for fun, let's see who else may share brand values. Start throwing your adjectives into the chat, start thinking about them. This is a process. I actually got connected today with one of my favorite success stories, somebody who is a local leader in our Cobb County community, youth education and sports, Coach Enright Wilson. He took my branding workshop back at the start of his nonprofit when they were at a place that all of us business owners have been before, where they were struggling to make ends meet. where they were struggling to get noticed, where they were struggling to get funding. And because of the branding work that we did that day, within a year, they were a robust organization scaling to multiple states. And it is so happy and so amazing for me to be able to see this kind of growth, this kind of impact. And he said that he would sit down with his team and they would work the workbook, refining, refining, refining. And it absolutely paid off in the end. So I love hearing these stories. I love helping you guys understand how to use your communication and leadership skills to make the world a better place because, I've been through it. I have been through it. And the only reason that I'm here today with the opportunities that I've had is because I've learned to get over my shyness. I've learned to fine tune my communication skills from starting in restaurants and getting the shyness knocked out of me being in the service industry. It was, little side note here, very easy for me to have confidence when I was behind the bar. One, there's a protective barrier. Two, I felt like I was putting on this metaphorical hat of smiling, confident, happy service industry professional. And that really was like training wheels for me to be able to develop the leadership presence that I have today, which has helped me when I've moved back to my hometown of Cobb County after not living here for 15 years, going straight into a pandemic, thinking, haha, I'm getting into the events industry for the first time January 2020, basically, and continues to help me and support me. And if you've got an idea out there, if you do good for people, you've got to refine your skills to be louder than the noise and the voices that we don't want to be louder than our good impact. So that is where I will leave us for today. Make sure that you comment in the chat what your brand value proposition is, what values or adjectives represent your brand personality. I'm happy to help you guys refine. And if you're curious on that 5 step process with the 4 steps in your delivery that come before the message you usually give, well, that will be linked in the comments as well. So I am happy Two, actually, what I was gonna say is that this is the first time that I have set up the little dual camera. Yes, I'll probably splurge for the Restream Pro, but to be honest, there's so many subscriptions that help business owners today, and I want them all. I like them all, but for now, right now, we're going old school with the phone and the MacBook and just getting my voice on as many platforms as possible. That's probably why I was a little tongue-tied other than the spaciousness because I'm trying not to look there. I want to look there. All the great fun parts about having an ADHD brain that goes squirrel and this and this and this. But hopefully, you guys have been following me long enough. You're here with me now. You can see how, if somebody like me, a shy neurodivergent communicator, can understand the structure and formatting that turns resistance into buy in, then you can